We're about a week out from when I took that footage of the winds that we had. And we've had even crazier winds about a week before that. But I just wanted to show you guys kind of what I've done here. So I feel like this is the most crucial part. This idea came from another YouTuber that I followed for a long time. This is a trash can. And this trash can is filled with water. Inside of the trash can filled with water is an aquarium heater. And I've noticed it provides a couple of extra degrees in terms of warmth for the greenhouse. Even though the trash can stays warm, it doesn't really add a whole lot. But I have also covered it in plastic, and that's just to help it grab some solar energy to heat that water up an extra little bit. But the number one thing I did to make this more sturdy is I took the trash can that's here, and I tied a piece of paracord to one of the handles there, the handle there, and then we just go up to the top, grabbing that middle cross beam, and then I zip tied it to get it a little tighter in it. I think I might need to do it again. I would just put like a zip tie right there, something like that to help tighten it down. But overall, it's pretty tight, and it does keep it from blowing away. So this idea came from the same YouTuber where I took paracord and I took it over there. I gave it a little wrap around that bar and then connected to that far corner. And then I did the same, you can't really see it there, to there. The trash can goes on top of that. Well, it goes on top of the pieces of wood that are on top of that. And that helps hold it down too. When I did this before though, all that held down was the bottom. All that held down was the bottom frame itself. So I came out one day to some pretty crazy winds, and the whole greenhouse was trying to come off the structure. But that does help. It definitely helps keep the foundation in place. Just to show other modifications I made, I had this in my attic. It's a piece of foam insulation board, and I thought I would try it just to see if I could keep the temperature up in here a little bit more. And I know it doesn't cover that full back wall, but I figure I would put it on the north-facing wall, or the closest to north-facing I could, and hopefully prevent some heat loss. And so far, I don't think it's really worked very well. I cut the piece of foam board, so I'm going to continue to use it, especially for this year. But otherwise, I just don't feel like it really works that well. Also, for weighting the bottom down, I have this on both sides. You can see there's a cinder block, and then there's a piece of, this is just a scrap piece of fence plank, and that's on the bar over there, that's on the bar over there at the bottom, and then the cinder block's just holding it down. We got those on all sides. And then right here, I added a couple of bricks because most of my plants are up top. So it's top heavy, which doesn't help with the integrity of the whole thing. So I added some bricks there to just kind of counterweight it. But as you can see, it is still very flimsy. I've stabilized it so it's not going to fly away. But what I haven't been able to do, and I'm absolutely open to suggestions and hoping someone can point me in a better direction, to a better solution, is I want to find a way to keep that sway out of it, because look how dramatic that is. I don't know if it shows on camera, but that is a very dramatic sway. So when winds come, I'm not afraid of the greenhouse blowing away, but I absolutely have to take everything off the shelves. I left a small bin like this of containers on the shelf of just some plants that I didn't really care too much about. I think that's a couple of them down there because they were almost dead anyways, just to kind of see how it went in that windstorm, and they fell. So that's definitely the next thing. So if you guys have any input on that, I'd love to hear it. You saw footage from the most recent crazy windstorm we had, but we had one not long before that, about a week before that, and this was totally fine. It's standing in the open in my yard, and I came out to it. It had no negative effects to it. That shed right there has gone through hurricane force winds, tropical storms. That blew over. It blew back into the woods, but this stayed in place. But let's go look at some of the other things I've done to make this more sturdy. Most of the boards that are out on here are just to help keep any energy loss out the bottom, or try to prevent it at least. But then back here, we have these buckets. I need to dump them out because they're going to breed mosquitoes. But these buckets are also on the apron. Planks of wood go on top of the apron, the buckets go on top of that. And that's just to help it not fly over that way. Do you know what I'm saying? Like towards the front. And we've done the same thing over here, just to keep some heat loss out. And then in front, see those boards right there, when I close it up, I make sure that that plank covers that stake right there, and I do the same over there, all the way across. And then these are my blueberry plants that were bare root, and I sit those on top of it. And then that just helps keep things in place when I'm not out here. This is what I'll do on a day that's not as hot but I need to keep it from getting too hot inside the greenhouse. It can be 60 degrees and get to over 100 degrees inside of the greenhouse. But on a cooler day, what I'll do is I'll take this, the flap, I'll put it down. I like to use a chair. I've used a 5-gallon bucket before. Put a plank on it, a rock on it, and then it helps keep the warmth in. But as you can see there, it flaps, so it's making sure a little bit of air gets moved in and out of the greenhouse. But then I'll take the blueberry plants or something like that and sit them basically right there on that bar, right there. That helps hold it down also, but also it lets the blueberries or whatever I sit there get a little warmer. So we're just kind of expanding that space. But today's a little bit warm. It's already like almost 90 degrees inside of the greenhouse, and it hasn't hit 70 out here yet. But yesterday I had this totally open. It was only about 75 outside, and it got to over 100 degrees inside of the greenhouse with the flap fully rolled up. So if it gets crazy windy, I've had this come undone. So far, so good. And the things I've done to try to keep the temperature regulated, especially at night, which I've noticed very little effect. We've got the cinder blocks in there that act as sort of a heat sink. We've got the big, I think it's 30 gallons of water with an aquarium pump to act as a heat sink. And then we have the foam insulation back there. I have a couple of cameras nearby that have temperature sensors on them. Usually I'm right about the same as outside, but I've also heard that inside of greenhouses can get cooler at night. So is that a success? I ask you guys because I don't know. It's my first year using a greenhouse of this size. And really I just tried to extend my early season and get some of my ingrown plants out in the greenhouse earlier. That way I can clear up space to start more seeds. So I'm very interested if anybody has any improvements that I can make on this. I know bubble wrap is something that's supposed to help in terms of heat retention. I've wondered also if I could just fill some, like a Ziploc bag, like a couple of gallon bags, and just attach them to the bottom of each shelf. I wonder what that would do. Or maybe on the roof, just something to help it retain heat, because it gets so hot in the day, and then it's like a ski slope as it starts to cool off in the evening. But the number one thing I'm looking for is if you guys have any hints to make it not so, you see all the wiggle in that, and then side to side's really not much better. I figure some sort of diagonal bracing is probably the solution, but I'm no engineer. So that's pretty much it for this greenhouse. So any input would be appreciated. But in the meantime, I thank you guys for hanging out. I thank you for watching.